to Freedom, a Buddhist dialogue in the modern context.
Welcome to another edition of Path to Freedom, our Poya Day discussion program here at Channel I, exploring various topics about and around Buddhism. On today's program, we have Venerable Mahargama Ananda Thera joining us. He is a visiting lecturer at the Postgraduate Institute of Pali and Buddhist Studies at the University of Kelaniya. Thera, welcome to the show. Glad to have you here. Thera, I will first of all talk about a topic that is very important. Of course, today's program is also going to be about this particular topic, the being mindful about death. It's something that is around us. It is something that we are all aware of. Sometimes we feign ignorance about. So in terms of Buddhism, what is death?
Namo Buddhaya. As you correctly pointed out, this is something important to our daily life. So at the first glance, you might think that we are talking about something not pleasant because we are talking about the mindfulness of death. So according to your question, you asked what is death according to Buddhism. So to put it in a nutshell, we can just say, according to the Buddha's teaching, especially the Abhidhammic point of view, we can say death is nothing but the interruption of the life faculty of a being within one becoming or within one lifespan of a person. That is death, very briefly. But you might wonder, what is this life faculty? It is called in Pali Jivitindriya. To explain it in brief, life faculty is nothing but a mental concomitant, which arises with the mind, which lives with the mind, and which disappears with the mind. That is a concomitant quality of the life faculty. So if by any chance, from any method, by any means, if one person's life faculty get interrupted, that is death according to Buddhism. But the Buddha has divided this concept of death into various points. Therefore, there are subdivisions of death. We can say that death is threefold according to a particular teaching. First, there's a death of Arahant, the enlightened being. For the enlightened beings, their death is the end of their circle of existence. So thereafter, there's no rebirth for them. That is one kind of death. There's another death which is we hardly notice that, to which we call the momentary death. The momentary death is there's a death at every moment of our life. It is a dissolution of the formations of the body. So we know that our body is made out of two things, the name and form, to which we call nama and rupa, the mentality and the corporeality. So these two things are made out of specific energies. All these energies, they momentarily, they arise, they live, and they disappear. So this particular death, it occurs momentarily. That's the second type. The last type is very obvious for us, to which we call the conventional death, the metaphorical death. Right? So we see, for an instance, we say there's a dead tree, there's a dead metal. Right? Likewise, we can just identify a particular death according to the outward appearance. So these are the three kinds of death. Apart from that, to add something, so we have to say that there are another twofold death the Buddha has expounded: the timely death and the untimely death. The timely death occurs in three occasions when your acquired merit is run out. I mean that if you run out of acquired merit, then you die. We call the punyakke marane. And the age, lifespan of a particular person, if it exceeds the particular limit, then you die. Then all these two things can occur simultaneously. Then also we call the ubayakke marane. Then also you die. The untimely death is nothing but a particular karma can intervene in your life process. Then the life producing karma is interrupted. So there's another way of dying. So likewise, there are numerous ways of dying the Buddha has expounded. I think it's not the time to explain all, but very simply, you have to remember death is nothing but the interruption of.
Thera, as you expanded upon in the last point, there is a situation in Buddhism where we consider death as another stepping stone, where in samsara you go into the next rebirth or life cycle, whatever it may be. When it comes to the general population, when you consider death, there is a finality to it. They consider death as the final stage. So how do you consider the layman's understanding of death?
Yes, as you correctly pointed out, there are numerous mindsets, there are numerous ideas about the death among the general public. So what they do is they just imagine the death will be like this and that, because they have not experienced the death in their lifetime. But according to the Buddha's teaching, I can recall one of the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha says, appamidam bhikkhave manussānaṁ āyu gamaniyang samparāyiko kattabhaṁ kusalang charitabbam brahmacharyang nati jahata samaranam. The Buddha says, appamidam bhikkhave manussānaṁ āyu, or because the lifespan of the person is very short. Gamaniyang samparāyiko, he should go to the other world. Therefore, kattabhaṁ kusalang, he should do all the meritorious deeds, which is essential. Charitabbam brahmacharya, he should lead the life of purity. There's nati jahata samaranam, means there's no not dying for the mortal being. So this is the Buddha's interpretation of that. But there's, according to the general public, the general society has become very skillful in hiding the death. Right? Normally, we don't observe the death. We can't see the death which is in the real status, real happening. I mean, most of the time the death occurs in the behind the closed doors of the hospitals or hospice or the nursing homes, likewise, especially in the sanitized environment, the death occurs. And also the death is most of the time interpreted as a negative thing. But we fail to see that death is an integral part of the life. So life starts with birth and ends in death. Therefore, those things are connected. So there are numerous erroneous interpretations about death. But as I mentioned before, only the conventional death is the obvious thing that people can observe. But they don't fail, due to their lack of wisdom, to notice the momentary death and what is the release from this death. And all those things are covered from their attention. Therefore, there are numerous erroneous views, wrong interpretations about the death among the society. But in very briefly we can say the general public, they almost know nothing about death.
Almost nothing about.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of death being considered, there is no one who has experienced death and come back for real. So in terms of that, there are some people who view death as the final stage. It's something that is there, it's inevitable, but that it is. And sometimes, now of course, as Buddhists, if you consider Buddhism, there is something called marana, being mindfulness of death. So that, there are some people, if you meet someone and if they are only thinking about death, you consider them a pessimistic person sometimes. So is there a negative aura around being mindful of death all the time? Or is it something that you have to compound and deal with and go on with?
Yeah. Before answering your question, so I should have a word with you like this. We have to understand what is the mindfulness of death in brief. So the mindfulness of death, or maranasati or marananussati, as we call it in the academia. So this maranasati is nothing but recalling the death, the contemplation of the death. So by doing so, we get familiar about we become familiar about the nature of the death. So as you asked whether there is a negative attitude among the general public about the death. Of course, they have. But to better understand what is death and what are the good outcomes of death, is it really something negative? So we can, I think it's better if I were to relate a small story. So let me tell you very briefly. Okay, we find a small story in the Uranga Jataka, one of the past birth stories of the aspirant Buddha. So there we find a small, once the Bodhisattva, the aspirant Buddha, was born as one of the farmers. So a special thing about him is he used to practice the Maranasati to the perfection. Not only he practiced the Maranasati, but also he wanted their family members, his wife, the son, his daughter-in-law, and even the maidservant to practice the Maranasati. So adhering to his command, adherence to his request, all the family members, they did the Maranasati to the perfection. Then one day this farmer went to the field with his son, and when they were working, one of the poisonous snakes had bitten the son, and within few minutes, his son died on the spot. Then he was not perturbed for a fraction of a second by seeing that. So what did he do? He took his son's body to near a tree, and he covered it with a cloth, and he resumed his work, his plowing work, although his son lied dead there. Then after some time, he sent a message to his house, to his dwelling place, by a passers-by, saying that you don't have to bring 2 portions of food today, just bring 1. And he requested his family members to come with perfumes and flowers. Having received this message, his wife did know what he meant. Then what did they do? Without any weeping, without any the grief, they came with flowers and perfumes, and they had a very simple cremation there. And there was with no one weeping. Seeing this, the Sakka, or the god of the king of the gods, Sakradeviyo in Sinhala we call, he came to the human world in the guise of a human, and he wanted to know what is really happening there, because we have seen people lamenting, suffering, and they are weeping in funeral houses. But this particular funeral, or the funeral function, it was very calm and quiet, no one weeping. So what happened was, he asked whether they are roasting an animal for flesh, because there's no one weeping. But that farmer replied, no, we are cremating our body's dead body. Then then son's dead body. Then he asked, your son wouldn't have been a dear son to you. That is why you're not weeping. But he said, no, our son was very dear to us. But why don't you weep? He asked. Then all the members of his family gave a beautiful answer to this Sakradeviyo, or the king of the gods. Then let me tell you only one verse uttered by the dead son's mother. She said, Anabhito tato aga ananunyato ito gato yata gato tata gato tattaka paridevana. Anabhito tato aga means uninvited, hither he came. Ananunyato ito gato, uninvited, there he went. Tathagato, as he came. Tathagato, yatagato, so he went. Tattaka paridevana, what ground is there for agony? So he said, she mentioned that there's no ground for weeping, therefore we are not weeping. We are not worried about his passing away. So having heard this, the Sakka was very delighted. Okay, what is the message that we can take from this story? If you have practiced the mindfulness of death, so it is not something negative. So having that strength within you, having developed or having cultivated that strength within you through the practice of the mindfulness of death, then you can lead a happy life. Even you are not shaken at the terror of the death. You can become very calm and quiet even at a funeral house. You are unshaken. You are not perturbed even for the fraction of a second. So these things are the positive result of the Maranasati. Therefore, we should not portray the death or the Maranasati is something negative.
Thera, just now you expanded upon the death, the Jataka Katha that dealt with death. As laymen, we have attachments. We are very attached to people who are around us, and with that attachment comes sorrow at passing. In terms of going about practicing Maranasati or being mindful of death, as a layman, now going to an extent where the Bodhisattva went, as you said, in that Jataka Katha would be something of a pipe dream, I want to say. It's something that is very much at a very high level. As someone who practices Buddhism, how can you maybe incorporate some mindfulness of death into your daily life, but realizing that there are attachments that you have formed throughout your life?
Yeah. In other way, you're asking what is the correct way of practicing the mindfulness of death. Okay, before that, I will let me tell you a very brief instruction given by the Buddha to practice mindfulness meditation. He says very simply, you can memorize this way: Maranang bhavishyati. Jivitindriyang, the Maranang bhavishyati means the death will arise at any time. So Jivitindriyang Jivitindriya will be interrupted in any time. So this is the way the Buddha wanted us to memorize the death of mindfulness of death. Okay, or else very simply you can memorize the death or the maranang. That is a very simple way of contemplating on death. But there are certain things that you should know if you are a real practitioner of the Maranasati. So the Visuddhimagga, the path of purification, teaches us there are 4 ways one should not exercise the Maranasati. These are very important, we should know. Because first thing is, one should not contemplate on a person's death who is agreeable to you, right? So if we contemplate on a death of a person who is agreeable or who is dear to us, so what will happen? The sorrow arises. For an example, a mother contemplating the death of his beloved son, then what will happen? Then she will grow the sorrow within her. Then she will not flourish. Then the second part, we should not contemplate on a death of a person not agreeable to us, right? Maybe our enemy. So we tend to rejoice at the destruction of our enemies. That is our human instinct, right? So, but Buddha says that we should not. Therefore, if you contemplate on one of a person the death who is not agreeable to you, then what will happen? Then will grow then undue gladness. That is also a barrier for the mindfulness of death. Then again, we should not contemplate on death of a neutral person, just common people. So, if we contemplate on them, what happens is we will not grow the sangvega or the spiritual emotion to which we call, or the sense of urgency. So, we will not grow that. So, it is very important to have the sangvega if you are practicing the mindfulness of death. Therefore, for an instance, just imagine a corpse burner at a cemetery. He is burning hundreds and thousands of dead bodies in a year. But he didn't get a single feeling of sangvega or the spiritual emotion there. Therefore, he will not flourish. And the fourth thing, one should not contemplate the death of oneself. Because if we were to memorize our death, sometimes we'll grow the anxiety. So we fear our death. It's like just seeing a murderer coming behind us with a poised knife or something like that. So therefore, these 4 things should be avoided. So what is the best way of practicing the mindfulness? We have to have 3 characteristics. The Buddha says sati, sangvega and jnana should be developed. Sati is the mindfulness, the sangvega is the spiritual emotion, and the jnana is the proper wisdom. These 3 things should be cultivated. And what should be our object of meditation then? Then we can direct our attention to the other people who have just died owing to some reason, without any proper connection between us. Then we can contemplate on their death. We can see how they were rejoicing in their life, and now they are just still there as a dead body. So likewise, we can contemplate the death, the mindfulness of death to the perfection. If you are practicing it the correct way, you are doomed to a happy destiny.
You're doomed for a happy destiny. Now, Thera, in terms of death, like I said, the layman consider death as a finality. So around us, you see something dangerous, you think, all right, there is a risk of injury, there's a risk of death, I'll be cautious. So in that terms, we contemplate death as something that is inevitable. And you consider, all right, this might happen during my lifespan. I can do this during these years, and I can do that in the other years. So you can plan ahead. You expect death is sometimes uninvited. It can happen at an untimely way. So what sort of understanding or contemplation of death should a layman have according to Buddhism going about their natural life?
Right. Okay. You are asking a question that in our day-to-day life, without having a proper, reserving a proper time for the contemplation, how can we develop the mindfulness of death with the course of our with the routine day, right? So there are numerous instances that you can make use of. For an instance, imagine that even within your living place, there are statues, there are photographs of the dead people who have long dead, right? That they may be one of your relatives who have died about 30 to 50 years ago. Then you can say that they have just left us. They are only the photograph. Now they are dead and gone. All their belongings are here. Now we are making use of them. Likewise, one day, even my belongings, right? One would use them when I am not no more, right? Therefore, likewise, you can contemplate the dead. Again, when you are going past the cemeteries, when you are going past a mortuary, you can see that. But you can see how our mind will not allow us to contemplate on that. We are reluctant to think that one day I will be decomposing there, one fine day. But still we can think that this is our destiny, that this is our fate. So nobody can avoid death. Nobody can have a immune from death, right? Therefore, there's another instance. And again, we can see that we can practice ourselves to see the ending. We are always fond of seeing the starting, but we fail to see the ending. For an example, take a party. We are so excited to start it, and we know that one fine time it will end. But we just ignore the ending. But we are worrying about the starting of another party, right? If you practice your mind to see the ending, if you see the parting of every meeting, right? If you practice your mind to see the parting of every meeting, then you will see that everything has their ends, right? Thinking about the ends is not a negative thing, because obviously we have to face the end. But if you have made your mind accordingly to face the ending with a happy mood, with a happy mindset, then you are relieved there. Then those are the occasions that you can practice the mindfulness of death. Even if you get a chance to volunteer in a hospital, in a nursing home, then you have ample chances to practice the mindfulness of death, seeing people dying who are about to die, and what are the feelings undergoing them, and what are the difficulties they undergo, what are the confrontations they experience. So these things you can practice. There are numerous chances in numerous instances that we can make use of through our daily routine.
Thank you, Thera, for joining us today. That was a very insightful discussion. Thank you. And that was Venerable Mahargama Ananda Thera joining us today. He's a visiting lecturer at Postgraduate Institute of Pali and Buddhist Studies at the University of Kelaniya, and he spoke about interpretation of death and being mindful of death according to Theravada Buddhism. That's it for today's Path to Freedom edition. Please join us again in the next Poya Day.